Hey guys, today we are going to be doing this problem, and I'm not going to lie, these are like my least favorite types of problem, only because they can get so tedious, but let's just go straight into it. Okay, so the first thing you do when approaching this problem is I notice that it's quadratic and it's inequality, so I'm going to use the number line method. And the first thing I'm going to do is I notice that I can factor this out, right? So I'm going to factor this. Number one is to factor, and you can either see this in your head or you don't, but so my brain automatically sees that this is going to factor to a 6 and to a positive 2. But if you don't see that right away, that's fine. You can use the table method or you can use the X method, which is how I first learned it in Algebra 2. So the X method basically is put your A times C at the top and you put your B at the bottom. So your A times C is your negative 12 times your 1, which gives you negative 12, and your B is just B, negative 4. So what needs to happen is that two numbers need to multiply to negative 12 and add to positive 4. So what two numbers could that be? It has to be negative 6 and 2, because negative 6 times 2 is negative 12, but negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. So that's the factoring is done. Next, you have to plug it into a number line. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to set both of your factors, or however many factors, equal to 0 in order to find what point on the number line you're going to use. So this gives you x equals 6. This gives you x equals negative 2. So next is the number line. The worst part, because it can be so tedious. So here's the number line, and I'm going to make a number line, okay? So what you do basically with this number line is you place these two values. The smallest one obviously goes first, the bigger one on the other end. So what happens is now you have to find a number from anywhere in this area to negative 2, and from negative 2 to 6, and from 6 to infinity, and you have to plug it in. So when you plug it in, the value that you get for that number, we're mostly focused on the direction, not the magnitude. So the negative or the positive will tell you what way to solve for your inequality. So I'm going to demonstrate this because it probably doesn't make sense right now. So I'm going to pick, let's say, negative 100, which is fine. Okay, so what I do with this negative 100 for the first part, negative 100, I'm going to plug in negative 100 for x, okay? So I'm going to plug them into my factor. So negative 100 plus 2 times negative 100 minus 6. And what you get is not important. It's just the sign. So I know that a negative times a negative, because negative one whatever, is going to give me a positive. So this whole area is positive. So let's move on to the next part and it'll start to make more sense. Next, I pick a value between 2 and 6. I'm going to pick 0 because it's the easiest one to work with. So B, 0. So I'm going to plug in 0 plus 2 times 0 minus 6. And off the top of my head, I know this is negative, right? I don't really need the number. I don't need the calculations. They're not important. Just the direction is important. So this is a negative area. Next, I find a number. And lastly, for 6, so I'm going to pick 1,000. So I have 1,000 plus 2 times 1,000 minus 6. And this is positive, right? Positive times a positive. You don't have to do the math. You just need to know the sign. Positive, positive, positive. So next, after you get these, you have to create an interval that represents when this function is less than or greater, inequality is less than or greater to or equal to 0. And what that means is less than or equal to 0 means it's either 0 or negative, right? Which means that we don't want positive area. We would only want this area if they asked for greater than or equal to 0, but they're not. So I'm going to focus on the area from negative 2 to 6, and from 6 all the way to infinity. And I'm going to construct an interval. So the interval for when this function, this inequality is less than or equal to 0 is going to be from -2 to 6. And they are included. Sorry, I didn't mean to highlight this part. Oh, God. Because this is also positive. From -2 to 6. And from -2 to 6, the function is negative, and it's included, so we keep the brackets because of this greater sign symbol, which indicates that it's included.